Hey everyone, welcome back to Security Unscripted. My name is Vincent Danen. I'm your host for the next couple minutes. And the topic that we're going to be talking about today is AI safety and security. AI is not a brand new space, obviously, but it's gotten a lot of attention the last little while. A lot of eyeballs are on it, and there's a lot of questions. Fast-moving space, and we kind of want to dive into a little bit of the topic, although I imagine this is going to be something that we're going to be talking about for a long time to come. So I have a good friend of mine, Florencio, coming to join us. Florencio, if you can maybe give yourself a brief introduction, and we'll get right into it.
Thank you. I'm Florencio, working as a principal product security engineer, focus 100% on AI security and safety. Big topic currently and for the probably years to come. In security since 2000 approximately, done a lot of different things, and now applying that to AI security and safety with many new things and many traditional security things.
All right, so another old timer in the security space. I love it.
Yeah.
So Florencio, because you have been working on AI security and safety, and those seem to be the two big topics. Although we talk about things like security of models and what does that mean, safety of models and what does that mean, the bias of models, which some people think that maybe it goes into the safety bucket. So I guess my question for you is why is it important to make a distinction between security, safety, bias, ethics, all the buckets? And are there any other considerations when we're thinking about AI models?
Yeah, there are two things. One is this differentiation that is key really, because when we are talking about security of AI, that's very similar to what we have been seeing in the past, right? And that's important because we can apply many of the same principles. When we are talking about security, we are talking about confidentiality, integrity, availability. At the end,
the typical CIA triad.
Typically, and also from the point of view of we don't want to be breached. We don't want an attacker to gain access to our system, to steal our information. That's traditional security, and in AI we have to take that into account and differentiate it from safety. AI safety is something very specific. Or we can apply it in a very specific way to AI. AI safety is about what the AI models, what information they provide, right? Is that information safe? Can that information cause problems? Is that model harmful? And it's very different because, for example, the way we approach the solutions. For example, for security, we can apply traditional controls and for sure new controls that we will find. But for AI safety, the same controls don't work. For AI safety, we are talking about retraining, adversarial training, about specific techniques that can reduce the problem, but we know what happens with models, right? They are non-deterministic. For the same input, they don't provide the same output. So the industry doesn't know how to build perfectly safe models yet. That's important differentiation.
Safe is that the notion, perfectly safe, right? I don't know if we'll ever get to the spot of perfectly safe. That's almost like saying perfectly secure.
Correct.
Right. I mean, there's no such thing other than stick it in the closet, concrete room, no doors, no walls, and don't have it plugged in or turned on, right? And maybe in the model space. Oh, so go ahead.
There is one nuisance there, and it's part of the difference between security and safety. For an independent individual security issue, we know how to fix it. But
Correct.
for an
We've been
individual,
doing it for a very long time. Yeah.
Correct. But for an individual independent safety issue, we don't know for sure how to fix it. We can retrain the model, but maybe it still provides the same harmful answer. We cannot anticipate, because this non-determinism, that we are going to fix individual safety issues in the models, and that's a thing to take into account when we build an architecture with models.
Yeah, and I guess the coupled on top of that is the expense of retraining and rebuilding some of these models. We're talking months and in the millions of dollars, typically for a larger LLM, right? But there's also things like some open source projects that allow for fine tuning that could maybe be used. And I've often thought of this, like, could we use some of these tools as a way to patch, quote unquote, a model to pull out some behavior that we don't like or something like that. So I guess this kind of takes me to my next question. And given how, rapidly moving this AI space is, there's a lot of different opinions. There's a lot of different people that are getting involved. And then there's also that difference between open models or, quote unquote, open source models, and then a proprietary closed paid for model, like the typical ones that people usually talk about. And I know that there are people out there who are going to make a lot of money on this, probably all the proprietary people, but being an open source enthusiast, I'm always looking at, what is the open source side of these things? Like who's involved on the open source side, and kind of what are they doing? And I know that you're heavily involved in that space, which is kind of why I wanted you to be able to talk about it a little bit. So tell me some of the things that are going on, or that you see some of the projects or foundations from from that safety, security, bias. How do we handle all of these unknowns sort of thing? Like, how do we figure out some of these answers in a bit of an open source sort of way?
Mm-hmm. At the end, we have said it, right? That open source is going to do for AI what open source did for operating systems, right? Mm-hmm. So open source will help that let's say that we all can use AI on our with our own capacities, our own systems, learning from them, studying them, using them. And around that, there are a lot of organizations, a lot of entities trying to define, to foresee how this will be, because it's a space that is very new. We are all discovering everything, right, related to AI. Right. We have been, for example, collaborating with AI Alliance, with a lot of big companies there participating, with COSI, for example.
COSI being the Coalition for Secure AI.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they are working on many aspects of AI security, like understanding how to secure it, for sure, the supply chain security of AI systems, AI models, how will we sign models, the provenance of the models, the lineage of the data, the training data. Yep. At some point...
It seems really pertinent with the news from earlier this week, last week, about DeepSeek and all the questions that kind of come up around there, right? So people want to know, how is it made? And that one's purported to be open source as well. But the things you're talking about, provenance, lineage, all of these sorts of things really come into play there as well, right?
Totally. And this DeepSeek has been, let's say, a way of waking up on many of these topics. We were already working on them, right? But also for the whole industry to understand, okay, now if I would like to know where the training data comes from, or if I'm using some training data, in which models I have fine-tuned, because we are just starting. Maybe we have one fine-tuned model or two, but when we have years of fine-tuned models and we discover that we are using a poison data set, a data set with bad data, because some reason we want to do the diligent work of finding out where we use those data sets, in which models, and what we do with them, how to inform users. So there is a lot of things that we have to find out how to do and do it efficiently and open source. So not only few people, but everyone with the same, let's say, quality.
Right. I know we can kind of dig into a ton of information here. I know there's one thing that you worked on, a couple other folks that I know, And maybe just talk just briefly, because we're pretty much at time, about the white paper that you guys published on safety and security in AI models.
Yeah, I contributed to that. Was led by my colleague Huzaifa in on the same team I'm working. And the thing is that we in that paper we explore and we propose a way of managing those safety issues that are intrinsically different from security issues, right? Because we have said they are not solved in the same way, but that does not mean we cannot do anything. We can do a lot to reduce the risk of the safety issues, to reduce the probability of them happening, the impact of them happening. And it's our proposal to how we should do it. Not only us, again, but how we think the open source community can manage this.
Right. And if nothing else, it gets the conversation started so that people can start to iterate. Think about some of the challenges and the concepts, potential solutions, and in a great open source fashion, we kind of just iterate and come up with the best solution, right? Thank you, Florencio. Definitely appreciate your time. Definitely going to have you or Huzaifa back on and talk a little bit more about some of these concepts. We could probably go for hours on this, but definitely appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. See you.
All right. And thank you, everyone else, for watching.